Poker fam, what is up? It is Reese here from Pokernomics, back with another installment of the vlog. Episode 11, I'm taking you back to the high stakes tables at Texas Card House Dallas. We're playing 25, 25, 50, $100 straddles, sick action, some of the biggest pots I've ever played in my life. But this time we're gonna do it a little different. If you wanna hear the commentators, you can check out the TCH live stream. I'm gonna take you in the mind of the genius, give you my firsthand perspective on what I was thinking in these spots, why I made these plays. But before we do that, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do that right now. Share this with your poker buddies, like and comment on the videos. Most importantly, don't be a jabroni. And with that, let's go to the film. All right, guys, we start this stream out, bought in for 15K here. Dong on my right had bought in for 100K. Raywick Nick had bought in for 50. So sandwiched between two huge stacks. Everybody else buys in for 10, 15, 20K usually. This is the first hand we play. Dong opens up in late position with King 5 suited. I call on the button with 10 Jack off. The flop comes 9, 9, 10. In position against Dong, I'm just going to check call here. He usually leads anytime he opens. I was surprised to see him check. So check back, just want to take one more street off. Turn comes a 9. Now I have 9s full of 10s. Very, very likely that I have the best hand. Once he checks again, I'm pretty certain of that. I bet 300 here and he folds and we move on to the next hand. So we're going to play our first meaningful hand about 5 or 6 hands later. Aho in the cutoff here opens for 150 with 8-9 suited. I'm in the $25 blind. I complete and we are heads up. Flopping Jin on a 9-7-3 rainbow board. Just absolute stone nuts. I'm just pumped about that. I'm out of position. I check to him. He's going to bet and continuation bet here, betting 150. You know, I think that there's a lot of ace kings and big cards in his range at this point. I'm not sure if he's really connected with this flop. So I opt for just the call here, and I'm actually excited when the turn comes a king. Again, it's a rainbow board. If he did have a king, this connects in his range, and it's a strong card for him to continue a bluff if he had air. So I opt for the check again, and he quickly checks back. Now, the pot is about 750 bucks at this point. I lead out a pot-sized bet thinking that he would snap me off with like some mid pairs. He's a good player. He's pretty conservative from what I've gathered and from what I've seen and playing with him. And he's able to make the fold. In hindsight, I think betting smaller, betting 300, 400, it has a much higher likelihood of getting called. So we drag the pot and we're on to the next hand. A few hands later, we play our third spot of the night. JD's gonna open from the low jack here with 2 8s for 150. Dong's gonna look down at 2 jacks and just flat here, which was surprising. Allows me to get in on the cutoff. We actually get 2 other players in the blinds to call. We are 5-way to a flop, and that flop's gonna come out the ace deuce 10 with 2 spades. Surprisingly, no one has an ace here. So action checks around to Dong, who's gonna bet 400 at this pot, a little less than half pot at this point. I'm the only one that can really call here, so I do. The rest of the players fold out. We are heads up and I'm in position. The turn comes a 4 of diamond, giving me a gut shot with my hand. At this point, Dong decides to slow down. This is a confusing spot. At this point, I start to think, is it possible that he could be leading with a larger flush draw, you know, jack high, queen high flush draw, something like that? I really don't think he has an ace once he does not follow through on the turn. The river comes a king of diamonds, and at this point, when he checks again, there's 1,600 bucks in the pot. I am not one to just throw out like crazy river bluffs just with that don't make sense, but I think in this spot I can represent an ace, a king. I don't know where he's actually at. I was surprised to see his hand post stream that it was 2 jacks. I literally thought I was buying this with an inferior flush draw. So I bet 1,000 and he thinks about it for a minute and folds. We drag that $2,600 pot and on to the next one. So just a couple of hands later, we play our 4th hand of the night. JD's gonna open under the gun for 150 here with 2 8s, folds around to me in the hijack. I complete with king 9 of hearts. That allows the cutoff to call, the small blinds fold, and Aho in the third blind does complete with ace jack. So we are 4-way to a flop with $650 in the pot. That flop comes out the jack 3-3, just an absolute miss. Nobody really has anything here, and the pre-flop aggressor, JD, checks. He's out of position, checks around. The turn comes a queen of clubs, gives us this like inside straight draw. But again, the action checks around. So we're happy to peel off a river. We hit that miracle river. We hit the 10. So we have an inside straight, and it's the, you know, second nut straight on a paired board with no action. It should be good. There's 650 bucks in the pot, and JD overbets, leads out for 700 here. So this is a tough spot. I want to raise. I want to get value out of this hand. It's hard to make big hands and hold them. But JD overbetting the pot and having, a propensity to have ace king here, could have a full house and just played it wonky. There's just some hands that are likely ahead of me, and I don't know if I raise what I'm going to get called with that I can beat. So I decide to just call, flat call. Some of the players at the table kind of give me some shit over that one. Whatever, man, this is a weird spot, and we'll happily take this down and move on to the next one. Now here comes an absolutely sick hand. About an orbit later, I'm in the third blind, and Hallie in early position opens for 150, folds around to Kyle Z, who's on the button, and 3-bets it to 500. Other players fold out, folds back to me. I look down at 2 jacks. Against other players that have a wider 3-betting range, I may put a 4-bet in from time to time. I opt for the call. Hallie calls as well. We've got $1,600 in the pot, and that flop comes out. The Jack-10-4 with 2 clubs. There's some flush draws. There's some straight draws. We got top set here. We're going to play a hand. We will see you at the river. So I check out of position. Hallie checks as well. Kyle is going to c-bet 500, and given the nature of this board, when the action comes back around to me, I opt for fast playing this hand at this point. I want to check raise, get money in here, fade nasty turn cards and try to get as much money in this pot as possible. So I opt for the check raise to 1,600. Did not expect for Hallie to flat that, having that hitchhiker between me and Kyle, it definitely changes the dynamics up of the hand. So he flats that $1,600 check raise, and it comes back around to Kyle Z. Now it's 1,100 to call here. He has about 10K behind. I know what's about to happen. You know what's about to happen. It's going to be a good pot. He starts counting it out, and eventually shoves on this with the overpair. Totally makes sense, but not today, my friend. I've got it. I'm going to tank for a minute and try to not look like I have the stones in this spot, try to get an overcall from Hallie. So eventually I go all in as well. Hallie folds, had the open-ended straight draw there, got out, and we are off to the races. A 23.6K pot. One of the kings has been folded. I was happy to see that afterwards. I got it in with some very strong equity and the backdoor club as well. Turn comes a club, so now I have a flush draw with that as well. And the river comes a 9. Hallie would have made his straight if I would have let him stick around. I drag a 23.6K pot. In terms of my hold'em career, this is like a top 5 in terms of the biggest hands I've ever played. This is just an absolute, just awesome spot to double up and build a nice playable stack for the rest of the session. My next playable spot takes place about 15 minutes later. I'm in the third blind. Raywick Nick is under the gun and opens to 150 with 2 10s. Action folds back around to me. I look down. I've got 2 8s. Certainly a playable hand. Certainly a justification for a 3-bet. I opt for the flat, and we take a flop that comes out Queen 4-4. I'm out of position, and I check to Nick. He c-bets 200, which we call. The turn comes a queen, so now it's Queen 4-4 queen. I'm ahead of a lot of ace highs and small pairs, and I think my hand has value. I check to Nick, and he checks back. River comes a jack, out of position again. Obviously, there's some hands that this makes if he's just airballing with big ace highs that have a jack or something like that. But I think I'm good here, and I'm prepared to call a decent size bet, half a pot or something like that. Anyways, I check. Nick snap checks behind. He's got 2 10s. He drags an $875 pot, and we're just thankful we got out losing the minimum in this spot. The next hand I find myself in is about a round later. Again, I'm in that third blind. Old Alvin teaches poker. He opens up for 150 with ace-5 of hearts in early position. Everyone else folds out, comes around to me. I complete the $100 raise. And the flop is going to come 8-6-3 rainbow. Really liking this spot and out of position. Just going to try to check call and reevaluate on the turn. I check. Alvin bets 150 on this flop. Continuation bet. We call. The turn is the 10 of hearts, bringing a flush draw, but giving us top 2 pair. Super pumped about this. Want to get some money into this hand. Look to do some sort of check raise here if he will oblige. And Alvin does. He bets 425 on the turn. This is my time to get some money into the pot. Think about it for a minute. And I check raise to 1,400. So it's a $975 raise. Alvin does eventually complete that. The river comes a jack, obviously 7-9s and queen 9s. There's some straights that make it there, but I'm very comfortable with my 2-pair hand. I'm gonna lead out on the river here for 1,800 bucks, and he folds pretty quickly. And we're just gonna drag a 5K pot here and call it a day. I play my next hand about 3 hands later when I find myself on the button. JD opens in late position with 7-9 suited. I look down at ace-5 offsuit, complete the raise to 150, and then Adam in the third blind looks down at jack-3 spades and completes as well. We take a flop that comes out ace-10-3 with 2 spades. I'm in position, Adam checks, JD checks, and I check. A little bit of pot control here, trying to fade some nasty turn cards. Also a component of not knowing 100% if my ace is good yet or in this spot, right? Pretty standard. Turn comes a king, and at this point, Adam checks again, JD checks, and I've got to get some value in this pot. At this point, I do think my ace is good now, and I bet 250. After checking the turn, Adam is going to turn his hand into a semi-bluff, and he check raises me to 1,300 bucks on this really scary turn card. JD folds and it's back around to me. I've got to call a little over 1,000 bucks into this pot. Could have opted for a check on the turn and let him try to fire off on the river or just make it to showdown, but I didn't, and he's able to put me in a tough spot. This is a player that is totally capable of raising with a draw, a semi-bluff, but also could be betting for value here. Not really happy with my spot. I wish I would have checked the turn in hindsight here and tried to make it to a river. Nevertheless, he put me in a good spot. I've got to let it go, so I fold and move on to the next hand. Second live stream in the books, second win in the books, some of the biggest pots of my Hold'em career in the books. This was a really good session. I ended up being in this game for 15K, cashing out 28.5, salty little win, little 13.5K. Was really happy with it. I did have that huge hand earlier on in the session, you know, flop top set with jacks, got the full double, the 23.6K pot, set me up for a really nice session just to win a few hands later, and was really just running hot this entire time. Cannot complain about that. There are definitely some spots I'm finding in these bigger games where I'm seeing that my game's exploitable. I'm opening myself up to some check raises and some spots. I'm working on that shit, guys. I got that under control. I just want y'all to know that I'm really enjoying these sessions. I hope you're enjoying my feedback on them. I want to hear your feedback. Tell me what you think about these spots in these bigger games that I'm playing. What would you do differently in some of these hands? I hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to share this with your buddies. Like, comment, subscribe, support Pokernomics. We'll be back with another live stream breakdown next time. Until then, take care. We'll see you next time. Peace.